Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bodied, a Cloud9 fan cast. I'm your host, Havokpus, joined with my co-host, Frozencreek. And we don't have a lot today, but we still have some Cloud9 action that we can kind of go over.
Yeah, another week of LCS. We're inching closer and closer to the...
Isn't it like the mid-season tournament dealie?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. We can talk about how that's shaping up a little bit in the league as a whole today, because we got time, I think.
Yeah, we've had teams play about 6 games, and that's usually where you can kind of tell where teams are kind of trending. So we can do that. But first, we're going to talk about some other teams. CSGO is currently playing in the IEM Katowice sort of like play-in stage of that tournament, and how their game with OG is going. It looks like they're about to get kicked out.
Yeah. We're watching it live, so as we record, at this rate, we'll have news by the end of the podcast, but hopefully this goes a little bit longer because we are falling down to OG. Actually, yesterday when they were playing
they're playing movie star riders.
Yeah, when we were down, it was like 14-9 or something. I was like, I'm gonna go for a walk, and
yeah, then they brought it to overtime.
Yeah, and then they went 16-9 and 19 on their map. So I didn't actually get to see that at the end of that because I just assumed they lost. So
they keep painting over the fan cams, and the Cloud9 cams look so sad.
Yeah, always depressed.
Yeah, Floppy has not gotten one kill. And I have to say, like, this CSGO roster is pretty much panning out like all of our previous post-major CSGO rosters, which has been fared like just like middling to like unimpressive. We've only like in this sort of rebooted big star era, we have only been able to get out of the group stage of like one tournament. Even then, we fell in the quarterfinals. I think losing Woxic as our opper did mess us up because now we're having to have our IGL Alex play op, and I just don't think he's that good of an opper. I think we should really find someone who can be an actual opper. But this isn't working out, and I'm just kind of wondering. Again, how long are we going to deal with this song and dance of CSGO? Like, no, you guys, we're gonna build a top team and we're gonna shoot for that top 5 spot. When it's like, this is like the 6th time you've tried this, and this team is not like one of those. It wasn't like the ATK roster where it's like we're gonna get a tier 2 team and really try to sort of build them up to a more like higher tier team status. We got really like high tier players. We've spent a bad amount of money on some of their contracts, and they are pulling like pretty weak results, and it just makes me question how long we should really be in CSGO if we're continuing to just build teams, especially with in this case with big contracts, and just not yield any sort of results. Is there even a point to having a CSGO team? We could be using those resources for our League of Legends team, for Valorant, for hell, if we want to stay in Overwatch, we could diverge. We could put the funds in that instead of, what we're doing now with CSGO. It's just a thing that I continually question, especially with each like poor sort of roster performance, and it's getting to that point again.
Yeah, and I think that these guys were dealt a tough card, like that they got brought together during a pandemic, that they all live like in different countries and such. So I think it is difficult for them, and that once they're able to start moving in together, I'm hoping that can help bring better results. But I don't know if they're going to change too much in the meantime.
Yeah, I know that everyone's saying like some players, like maybe like Esatag, I think, it's like, oh well, he's a LAN player. Once you get back on LAN, it'll be a lot better. But it's like it sounds more like an excuse of him just playing bad than if anything. Like if he was a good player, he should be able to be a good player. Like Floppy, he is. In this game, for example, he's just not doing too well. I think Mezzi has also been sort of a hit and miss player. So it's I don't know. I don't know. What the I don't know. I guess what sort of the return and the incentive for us to still have a CS team is. But I mean, we'll just have to see. Maybe like when we get to LAN, maybe it's worth holding on until then just to see if this team can actually do something and click and come together when they're able to be in the same space around them. That could happen. It could not. We'll have to see. But I don't know. I feel like the inevitable clock is ticking once again, and I can only imagine that C9 is going to have to make some sort of adjustment and some sort of change, because you can only lose and do poorly for so long.
Yeah, and a lot of their mistakes at this point seem to just be on themselves, like missed shots, walking through openings and getting opt for no reason, and just dumb stuff like that. And I mean, I'm not a CS:GO pro by any means. I don't know much about the game, but as someone who doesn't know that much about the game, that's out of what it seems like to me.
Yeah. It seems to be just like individual mistakes. It seems like as a unit they're able to play together. It's not like that they're all over the place. It seems like they have plans and strategies that they try to execute. It's just mistakes happen, or they just fail in individually their part. So who knows what the future will hold for CSGO. But I can only imagine that something's going to happen soon. But moving on, we can talk about sort of, speaking of failings, we can talk about Valorant, C9 Blue, and I guess C9 White also, failing yet another Challengers qualifier. C9 Blue once again made it to pretty far. I think they were in the top 16, and they narrowly lost to Gen G. It was, again, a thing of they got to overtime, they played, each map was very close. I think they went to overtime a couple of times in different maps, but they failed to clutch out in overtime. I don't want to see any changes just yet, because I think that this team's really come together. I think this new iteration looks way better than what we had with tens, because we're actually having it looks like we have strategic thinking and execution. I think Zeta, it definitely is bringing something to the table that we didn't have before, and Leaf seems like the kind of player who is a team player but can also frag out. I think the biggest issue I had with this qualifier was that none of the matches were streamed. Like, we couldn't watch any game. The Gen G match wasn't even streamed. So we were having to wait after the fact to see like how the matches were doing. But I think that we should wait a little bit longer before we see any big changes. We also have Poise as our 6th man. I'm not sure if he played it all yet. But we have him that we can maybe look on if Mitch or Vice. I think Vice is maybe the IGL, so maybe not Vice. But, if Mitch or Leaf or someone, or Relics isn't really doing their fair share, they're maybe playing a map that they don't feel comfortable on. I want to see us exercise that 6-man potential, so we have things that we can do. I think that we shouldn't give up on this blue squad iteration just yet. As for the white team, I'm not really sure. They're kind of stuck in sort of the skill level where they're at, where they're able to beat the lower tier teams, but when they face a higher tier team, they get beat. And that's maybe just them having to just fight. They need to maybe just find events that are more them punching in their weight class, rather than trying to have to punch up. But sometimes that's just how it is in these big open qualifiers. But that's the Valorant report for today.
Was Katie still playing?
I can't remember.
Okay, because
I think she
none
might
of the
have
games
been.
were streamed, so I didn't get a chance to see.
No, yeah, none of the matches were streamed. It was really annoying.
Also, it looks like Cloud9 is going to win a round, so
impossible.
Don't call it a comeback.
We just have to come back from 111.
Maybe I spoke too.
Well,
too
no,
soon.
maybe we spoke too soon because it looks like
Maybe I spoke too soon.
Alexib, which is like Alexib. Maybe that's how you pronounce it. There's been like 3 Alexes that we've had to like have in this event. It's very
Yeah,
confusing keeping up.
Oh my god, going into the
The
12th
movie star
round.
writers match with Alex versus Alex was hilarious.
Oh, that was a shit show.
It was so funny.
I was like passively watching during work, you know, and it was like Alex this, Alex that. I'm like, who? Which one?
Eventually they shortened it to I think like Spalix for Spanish Alex and or like Bralix for British Alex.
Oh, okay.
That was later.
And it looks like OG has an Alex kind of too.
Yeah, but
Um,
but
moving on to Academy really quickly.
well,
and
actually,
Academy
I was
report.
just but before we do to Academy, I was actually going to just say that the British Hurricanes have announced they did this like yesterday, but they have
Okay.
announced their roster for the 2021 season, which is good that we're still using the British Hurricanes as kind of our tier 2 team. I think that that's really important. If you're wanting to keep Overwatch alive, the best way to do it is through the tier 2 scene and growing players and growing that player base. So we have Helv, Vistola, Sparker, who he's only on the British Hurricanes because he's not old enough to be in the Overwatch League. Otherwise, he would have been on the main roster. He's not 18 yet. Yikids, Scaripa, and Admiral. And that is our roster. So, hooray. Most of them are from other EU contenders teams. It looks like we basically picked pieces from other EU teams that are good and that we've played against in the past, and have basically tried to make like a super giant of different contenders teams to fly in the championed fleet of the British Hurricane. So I'm really looking forward to it. I hope they can have the same dominance that the 2020 roster did, because we almost had like a full year of just not losing a match, which was really impressive, and I hope that they can kind of carry that sort of dominance forward, even without the majority of the team.
Yeah. Do you have any clue at when Overwatch League starts again?
I believe it starts in April,
Oh,
so it's
okay,
kind of late.
So we're still months out.
Yeah. I think there's maybe even some drama on some rosters. Like I think maybe the LA Valiant has moved to, I think maybe having a majority like Chinese roster, and they're now like going to be taking part in like the Asian conference. I think maybe some teams still don't have finalized rosters. I'm not so sure on that. It's really up in the air for it's kind of confusing in some parts, but this Overwatch season has been taking its sweet time, and I want to see our team play. I want to see this truly European London Spitfire take off and see who they measure up with. I think they will have an easier time since they're now in the Atlantic Division, and they'll be playing other teams on the East Coast or whatever, wherever they're sort of centered in. I'm not sure, but they're going to be playing more teams that are probably within their skill level. They're not going to have to be playing against the Seoul Dynasty or the Hangzhou Spark or the teams like that. So they can kind of avoid the heavy hitters while probably having to just deal with a lot of the middle of the pack people and see where it goes from there. I'm hoping we can at least get to playoffs. I'm not asking for a lot. I just want us to get 2 playoffs. If we get 2 playoffs, everything after that will be icing on the cake. I will feel happy that we've been able to turn around our Overwatch program from it being a hectic mess to something that's at least consistent, and we can all feel better.
Yeah, and I think it'll be good for our European brethren to root for. I feel like COVID has pretty much taken Overwatch League off the map, so I'm hoping that a more regionalized approach it will help with that.
Yeah,
Didn't
I'm really.
Or didn't they delay Overwatch 2 until next year again?
Yeah, they delayed it. I think there was supposed to be like an announcement that was supposed to happen like this year, but then they got delayed. I'm not really sure what's going on with it. Blizzard is not the best managed of companies. Um,
No.
but yeah, I'm hoping that this season can be better because I know COVID kind of caught everyone by surprise, and the league really had to kind of scramble to make it work. Like, for us having like a Korean roster, we had to pretty much ship everyone back to Korea. And I think some of the players were even sick. And, Jack was saying how some, I think maybe had to go to the hospital. And it was pretty, touch and go at some points. And, I think that, we were not expecting to play like the entire, like, gamut of other Korean rosters and everything. I think for last year's roster, I think our expectation was we were going to play against some of the other middle of the pack teams on the Eastern Coast. We were going to be a middle of the pack team there, and we were sort of going to slowly improve and ramp up to probably us going to playoffs and then seeing where we can go from there and improve from there. That clearly didn't happen, and I think that we had to probably reevaluate the program and the direction it was going then, because I think second year in a row you try to do an all-Korean roster and it kind of fails. You kind of need to do something, as much as I hate to see that, just because I think that if you want to win, you kind of have to go for a Korean roster. But if you can't get good Korean players or seasoned Korean players, then it's kind of like a coin flip at that point. I could go all day on it. I was really rooting for our team last year, and I wanted them to do well, but I think they were maybe too inexperienced at playing at the high level of play, and other stuff was probably going on. So it's sad that it didn't work out. But I really did want them to, to do well, because some players like Glister were really fun to watch, and I wanted him to succeed. But sometimes things don't work out.
Yeah. So that'll be coming up eventually, and we'll have more about that out when it's about to start, and when we know more.
Yeah. So moving on to League of Legends.
Yeah, let's do a quick Academy report.
What happened in Academy? I actually can't remember.
We lost to FlyQuest.
Okay. Yes, I remember
but
that.
we beat Evil Genius. Excuse me. We beat Evil Geniuses on Wednesday and lost to FlyQuest on Thursday.
Yes, that's right. We're currently 6-2. I think this Academy team's pretty strong. I think we're not as put together, I think, as the 2020 champion roster that we had that just crushed everybody. But it looks like we're pretty good. I'm really glad that we're retaining Westrice as our Academy coach, because I think that he's a really smart guy who I think he really knows what players we need and how to develop players to be better. And he has shown that time and time again with our Academy rosters. Our Academy rosters have always been strong. We've always had strong players. And the players that have come out of Cloud9 Academy, I think, are a lot of names that people recognize and see either through the LCS stage or also in Academy that are doing fairly well. Kumo, Contracts, Blabber, Licorice. Was Licorice on C9 Academy for at least a little while, I think? Yep, Licorice. I feel like we had like a couple of 80 carries from our team. I can't remember.
Yeah, we've had Deathly on there.
Yeah, Deathly, who is crushing it now on Evil Geniuses in this new iteration. We had Keith.
That doesn't really count.
Who you
Keith
no,
is
it doesn't. You hate
Keith
that
is
man
bad.
with a passion.
I'm sure Keith is a great guy. He's just garbage.
We have like Diamond and Palafox. Like we have essentially like this. We're sort of the Alabama of League of North American League of Legends, in that we have basically trained up so many people. You just find Cloud9 people everywhere in other esports and throughout esports. So I think it says at least something about Cloud9 and their ability to really sort of build up players, in that you see them like everywhere, and you can just pick out a name and go like, oh, he worked for Cloud9, or oh, they worked for Cloud9. Because like Yankos, for example, Yankos was on Cloud9 Tempest, back when we had that European challenger team, and then they qualified, and then they became H2K. You know, so that's more of a. I went on a really weird tangent, but the academy team's doing great. I hope they continue to do great.
They're doing well. They are playing their last academy game tonight, Wednesday, against Team Liquids. So I feel like that's the match to watch if you're watching any LCS academy. With I think our win over EG last week, we solidified our spot in the LCS Proving Grounds tournament.
Is that really already like coming up? That like it's only February.
It starts March 22nd.
Oh wow.
So right now, 100 Thieves, Cloud9, FlyQuest, and Team Liquid have all auto qualified apparently.
Okay.
According to Wikipedia.
Well, that's good.
And yeah, so
I think that's good for a few reasons. Just in that we can kind of since we don't worry about qualifying for playoffs, we can kind of experiment a bit more, which I think can really benefit us.
Or we have one game left against Team Liquid. I'm not sure what the tiebreaker is, but we have a chance to match them.
Oh, that's true.
So we could take the first seed, and I'm sure there's some world where we get first seed somehow.
Yeah,
so.
I imagine that'd be really good. But yeah, watch that game. We can talk about LCS. I imagine we're gonna have a lot of discussion on that because we played some banger games, e.g. 100 Thieves and FlyQuest. The FlyQuest one was kind of a banger.
Or I mean, the not banger game was us losing to Evil Geniuses.
That one I do want to talk about. And what's really interesting about that game is I think that we had a game plan, right? Like I respect our game plan, and it was one that we've done before, and it's one that I totally respect and understand. You have Camille for Fudge, Talia for Blabber, Galio for Perks, Kaisa on Sven, and Blitzcrank Vulcan. I totally understand what they want to do with this comp. They want to pick someone off with either Camille, Galio, whoever, and then just dive on that one person. They have it's kind of also defensive because you have Camille and Galio kind of being able to sort of disengage. It seems like a kind of like oddly defensive comp. But I think that what happened was the plays early game just did not work out, and every time we tried to make a play, whether through Vulcan missing a Blitzcrank hook or Blabber trying to gank bot lane and him just not being able to convert it to anything, or us just I think we really underestimated and kind of undervalued how strong Senna and Tom Kench was on the patch they were playing on, because definitely an Ignar basically made it to where we could not do anything to Evil Geniuses in any sort of aspect.
Yeah, I feel like we came in with a game plan and didn't quite plan for them going Senna at Tom Kench, because the Blitzcrank didn't really fit into what we wanted to do, and we kind of it seemed to be kind of we felt that we had to pick him into the shields of Tom Kench and Senna.
Yeah, which makes sense because of how the silence works. So that's understandable. And again, I totally respect and understand where Cloud9 is coming from. Like, this seems to be like a comp that could work fairly well if you executed it properly, and I think they just missed the execution. And then Evil Geniuses just were able to work the map so much better, and as each sort of failed attempt to make a fight or a play happens, Evil Geniuses just took more and more until eventually just kind of got out of control.
Yeah, and I'm still not sure how I feel about the actual game, because we took a lot of fights that we probably didn't have to take.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like we could fight to try and get back into it, or we could try and pick up gold elsewhere. But it just didn't seem like our ability to fight was ever like in a good spot. Like, our Fed person was Perks, and he had built.
Yeah, he built like a supportive first
Shirelias,
item. Yeah.
As opposed to like a Night Stalker or something.
Yeah. Or the Proto Belt.
Yeah, proto belt.
Yeah, see, I think that's just what the weakness of Cloud9 is, when you have the option to either play sort of the map, defensively, either playing the map and looking to get standing gold, as much standing gold as possible, versus opting to trying to get picks and fights to get your way back through kills. I think we seem to more often than not favor fighting, which I'm a mixed feelings about. I think in some aspect it's fine, in that picks are way easier to get standing gold off of than trying to manipulate minion waves and make pushes to take turrets and setting up for vision for dragon and neutral objectives and all of this macro garbage. Picks are a much easier, quicker way to manipulate the game. But I feel like when we're down, it puts a lot more pressure on us, and I think that hampers decision making. It hampers how we can play. I think as a good sort of mirror, look at the 100 Thieves game. I think the 100 Thieves game, I did not like how we played the 100 Thieves game, because even though like at a certain point we did have a lot of advantages through Blabber's Rek'Sai, we were getting a lot of kills early, and Blabber made Rek'Sai work, which I think was really impressive considering 100 Thieves spent 5 bans banning junglers.
And a pick, yeah. So there were 6 junglers down by the time he got the pick.
And that's really impressive. He made Rek'Sai work as well as he did, and I think that really stands a testament to his skill as a jungler. But I think that how we sort of played as a team, we were really looking for a lot of fights, and I think that it was just a really kind of sloppy game. We had a really lot of sloppy fights. At certain points, I felt like instead of fighting, we could have opted to play the map. And when we picked fight, we kind of were throwing at certain points. And we made the match a lot closer than it probably should have, especially with how we were getting lots of kills early. And I think we had 100 Thieves, if not in gold, but at least in terms of like map pressure and everything, we had some advantages. It just seemed like we were just playing things really sloppily. And we kind of squeaked that win out through Blabber and Perks and Fudge really putting on a show and waiting for Sven to kind of scale up on Samira to that like sort of unstoppable point that she can get to.
Yeah, it also it was a tough team comp to play with the Zoe with a bunch of dive champions.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like
which was kind of
like drafting Galio and Set makes it so hard to fight as Rek'Sai, period, because the taunt and then the face breaker, it makes it to where you really can't get on anyone. And it seems like that's an adaptation that people are really playing into when they play us specifically. They look to have a lot of disengage, since we look to sort of do the sort of 5v5 death ball kind of approach. And when they can pick a lot of disengage, it makes us a lot harder to play the way we want to play. I think this game did show, at least I guess on a positive, it did show that we were good to pivot around sort of the things that were hampering us to play our game, and we were able to make it work. I will say Fudge is getting a lot better at his play. He's looking better with each game that he's playing, I think.
Yeah, he played super well outside of the pick that gave him Cloud Soul. When he died bot lane for
where he just went
reason.
Up into going into the brush, not eliminating that death, because I think that's just a mistake that you're just overconfident and you make. That's something that I think everyone will make every once in a while, and I don't want to harp too harshly on that. That aside, he's looking a lot better each game he's playing, and he's laning a lot better. He's playing better with the team and how he plays around them. I think Fudge is really starting to iron out as a really good top laner for us, and he's not being a detriment anymore like he was in the lock-in. It seems like he's really sort of, elevating himself with each game he's playing and the more time he has with the team.
Oh yeah, I agree. He played at the Grog as well, and I'm just waiting for him to gel with the team more, because I think the one thing that Licorice did well, it was he flanked very, 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 very well on Camille or Poppy or Maokai.
His Aatrox flanks were really, really good. He always was able to help us out in that. His flanks haven't been as. I think Fudge seems to be more of a front to back kind of player rather than a flanker. When he's playing Camille or Gragas or something, it seems like he's better when he's with the team and he starts off the fight, and then everyone else kind of follows up behind him, rather than him kind of going around and being sort of isolated for a flank. But I think other than that, that's really good. And speaking of Licorice, we played against Licorice, and Licorice went 0-5-1 against Fudge's on Aatrox versus Fudge's 4-0-6 Gragas.
Yeah, the Aatrox was kind of an odd pick, I feel like, but Licorice got the Blabber treatment, so.
Oh yeah, Blabber on Talia. Blabber just really likes to abuse the top lane and just constantly just hammer that side of the map and just make it to where no one's gonna have a fun time. But I think this game was, I really liked the FlyQuest game because we were showing dominance in all of our lanes, and it showed like we actually were working the map well, and we're actually playing with the map rather than trying to play against the map, sort of, and be more brawly. You know, it seemed like we were actually fully in control of this game and just doing whatever we needed to. You know, I think Vulcan once again was having another beautiful Alistar game and doing exactly what he needed to do. You know, he died some. He was 1, 3, and 4, but as an Alistar, you're sort of the you know, not to make a pun, but you kind of have to be the sacrificial cow sometimes in order to get your team ahead, and that's what he did. You know, Sven on Samira is 5-0-7, and he was able to hit those item spikes pretty well. You know, and Perks did his job on Tristana as sort of just roaming around the map and destroying towers, and I think everyone just did their role absolutely what they need to do for the FlyQuest game.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Perks kind of fell behind a little bit, but he did a great job picking himself back up once he got hardcore camped early on by Jose Diodo. I will say that we spent like 11 a million on an ADC, and it took him this long to play an ADC.
Exactly.
So things are looking up.
I will say
Actually,
also for
I heard it was his first professional Tristana game, actually.
Oh, really?
I have no way to fact check that, but that's
until proven otherwise, we will consider that
heard.
as fact.
Yeah.
I will say, I think that Perks is also starting to really improve more as sort of a team player. It seems like he's settled himself in how he needs to play, especially around Blabber and everyone else. Because at the beginning of the season with the lock-in, it seemed like he was really sort of not necessarily fighting against like what the team wanted to do, but it seems like he was kind of like chafing against it. But now it seems like he is, you know, settled in and being sort of this, you know, he's not like a carry mid necessarily. It seems like he's more of a role player that's able to sort of lead the team and kind of where they kind of need to go next. And he's definitely showing that a lot in his play. Yeah.
At first, they played a bunch of easy to execute comps, and seeing the Zoe this weekend, seeing the Tristana, I'm excited to see what they can pull forward and now going into 11.4, because that's going to be, I think, our toughest patch to adapt to. The Samira is getting Olaf, and the jungle is.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, isn't that the patch with like all the jungle nerfs?
Yeah, they're taking golds and experience away from camps and making them harder to kill all in one patch.
Ooh, yeah, that's gonna hurt. I think pretty much every team across the board in terms of just the jungle.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt junglers, but I will say that I think it also does kind of play in to Blabber, because if you're not getting as much farm or kills from, or farm and experience in gold from camps, then you're just going to go gank.
Yeah, and that fits exactly what Blabber wants to do most of the time anyway. He's the one who wants to fight from the word go. You know, you're really just encouraging him more.
Yeah, just pick Gragas, Jarvan, Elise.
Maybe not Jarvan. I don't like Blabber's Jarvan.
Well, he is a year older now.
True, he could be better now.
His Jarvan 3 can become Jarvan 4.
Maybe so. Hopefully
and
so.
His fourth split on Cloud9. Is that correct?
I think so. He's been with us for like 2 years, I think.
Something like
As,
that.
as
Okay.
like the starter.
Yeah.
Longer if you count in Academy and when he was sharing time with Sven Skaren.
Yeah. So, and anything else from last weekend?
No, I was gonna pivot us over to next weekend.
Yeah. We got a tough weekend this week, I think.
We have a really interesting weekend.
Well, not tough. But
Friday,
tougher.
February 19th at 6 Eastern. We're playing at CLG, and I believe Broxa will actually finally be in the country.
Yes.
After like 3 or 4 weeks of him not being with his team, he will finally get to play. I still think we should be able to beat CLG.
Yeah.
Broxa, even with Broxa, he probably hasn't played with the team long. Plus, like, CLG just seems to be a dumpster fire. You know, Paul Bolter was relegated to Academy, and they're having RJS as the starting mid laner.
Who's played okay?
He's played okay. I just don't think that CLG really has the firepower to stop us. You know, Smoothie has been far away from his, like, I remember when Smoothie was on Cloud9, and Smoothie, like, it was the year that Smoothie was being such a good support. I was, like, demanding that he be the MVP for how, like, crucial his role in our success was that year that he was playing. He's kind of fallen off there. You know, Finn has kind of struggled as well. Who's their AD carry? Oh, it's Turtle. Turtle's trying. Turtle's trying, but, you know, one AD carry does not a team equal. So I think we should beat CLG. Saturday, February 20th at 4 p.m. We're playing against Dignitas, who've had a big surge in success, and that will be really exciting to watch. And then Sunday,
they're actually decent.
they've been playing well.
Neo, Aframu, and Dardadak have been fun to watch. Dardadak has played a different champion each game so far, so
Yeah, that's what I love. Like, Dardak really seems to be gelling with this squad and how they want to do things. I think in an interview with it was either Neo or Fake God, they asked, like, so what's the you know, like, especially with his Blue Cane game where he just went off on, you know, I think they asked, like, one of the players, like, so what's like the you know, the reasoning behind picking some of these picks that Dardak wants to pick. It seems kind of like off the wall. They're like, oh, sometimes he just wants to pick a champion. We just go, okay. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. So Dardak's, like, kind of X factor, that it seems like he's really, like, sort of found himself again, like, after kind of stumbling a lot after years. It seems like we're seeing the Dardak that we saw when he was on Team Liquid initially, you know, kind of back at it. And Afromove seems to be, you know, in this really nice sort of leader position where, you know, he doesn't have to play amazing, but he's really guiding the team. And Neo is showing to be a standout AD carry amongst the AD carries. And Soligo is doing all right as a mid laner. I think they're sort of doing what CLG did a few years ago, where it was more, you know, they're not spectacular individually, but they're greater than the sum of their parts, and when they play together, they can do a lot of really dope stuff. So that's gonna be a really fun game.
yeah. Neo right now has the highest KDA among AD carries, so with 30 kills, which is 4th, I think. So he's playing well. Aframu seems to be like a young ADC whisperer.
Yeah, I think he's really good at sort of connecting to his lane partners and getting them to play better, since he's been playing for so long, and he kind of knows, at least on the fundamental level, like, okay, here's what you need to do. Just do this and we'll be fine. And then you kind of take it from there.
Yeah, I wonder if he's interested in becoming a coach when he's done, because he kind of had like a career at a revival once he started playing with these young ADCs again, like Johnson last year.
Yeah.
In Neo this year.
Yeah, I could really see it. I've always kind of considered him sort of a coach just for experience wise. I'd really love to see him, you know, whenever he does retire, to just sort of become more of a positional coach maybe, and just sort of help teams in the bot lane, because it seems like he knows so much about how bot lanes should be playing and everything. He could definitely help out there. Um,
Yeah.
and I guess moving on, we have Sunday, the big match, February 21st at 7 Eastern. Team Liquid versus Cloud9. Team Liquid have had a rough couple of games, but it's still Team Liquid. So you
Yeah.
can't just discount them just because they're 3-3 right now. It's still Team Liquid. You know, it's still this pretty strong roster.
Yeah. Alfari's kind of um Alfari's kind of had a few stinkers since his lock-in tournament, and Jensen hasn't quite been a top mid lane so far this split.
Mhm.
He's kind of just fallen off and been average
Yeah.
Jensen that is sometimes pops out when his team's not supporting him all that much.
Mm. Yeah, I think TL is really going to try to like reset on themselves this week. Looking at their matches, they have Golden Guardians, but then they have to play Evil Geniuses the day before us. So I think that they're going to be trying to reset on themselves. I would imagine a lot of this is going to come from them trying to get Core JJ back. You know, Core JJ on something that he can be really impactful on. Do not let him get Blitzcrank. I don't give a fuck like who, like what bans or what. Do not let him get Blitzcrank. Just ban it. I don't want to like deal with him having his Blitzcrank and taking over the match. Just don't do it. Don't give him Blitzcrank. Maybe don't even let him get Tom Kench. Just if you can avoid those picks from him, we have a much higher rate of success than when he is on his fucking like pocket picks.
Yeah, agreed. Picking a Senate Tom Kench into him is fine as long as he's not on his Blitzcrank.
Yeah.
So I can't find betting odds on it at the moment, but I feel like based on current form that we have to be favored by just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think this is going to be a good preview of what to expect coming up in the mid-season invitational.
Yeah, and in the lock-in, we took them to 5 games, and it was a really close 5 games. So it can go either way. I think that it's going to depend on which team is like there to play that day. You know, who is maybe a bit more prepared, who can maybe, you know, since it's a best of one, maybe who can do maybe a few like, you know, curveball kind of choices to kind of throw the team off, stuff like that. I think our staff is pretty prepared. I've really been liking how we have been drafting. It seems like our coaching squad has really understood sort of where the meta is going and what picks we need to be taking and everything. You know, it seems like we're you know, in meta shifts and everything, we're dialed in on what we need to do. So I have confidence that they will understand sort of what needs to be done, at least from a drafting perspective, and it'll all just be on team execution.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to see some good picks coming out this weekend. I think we'll still be on 11-3 because I think 11-4 comes out today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So 11-4 won't be until next week or the week after. So
yeah.
The jungle experience won't be down. But I feel like right now we should just be favored, at least in mid and bot, and especially jungle. Or bot's a toss-up for the most part, but I think we're favored in mid and jungle. So I think this is our match to lose, and I think every match pretty much is our match to lose because I think that we're the best overall team right now.
Yeah, I think that all we really need to do is make sure Blabber can get a good pick. I think also make sure that Fudge isn't like so incredibly behind. You know, just make sure he doesn't get incredibly behind. Make sure Core JJ, Jensen can't get anything too much in their wheelhouse that they can really take over a game with, and I think we can win. It'll be a great game. I'm really excited for it. What are your predictions for this week, I guess, in terms of like win rate?
3-0.
Okay. I could see us. I could see it 2-1. I think 2-1's realistic. Kind of like last week, we have some big games where we could drop one. Like we do with the Evil Geniuses game. But I think we'll have a winning weekend for the most part.
I think in anything less than a 3-0 is disappointing, even if we lose to Team Liquid. I just feel like we're the best team right now. So in best of ones, we can always drop a game out of of, of nowhere. But Evil Geniuses hasn't really been good, so it's bound to happen at some point. And they have experienced players who can win games on their own, so it's bound to happen. But any loss in my book is a bad loss.
Right.
We don't have a ton of time, but we are halfway, or a third of the way through the first quote unquote split, and we are shaping up into seeing what to expect for the mid-season showdown, which starts in 4 weeks and about a month from today, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
The first 4 seeds go into the winners bracket, and then 5th and 6th seed go into the losers bracket.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the goal here is to get the first seed and go down MSI. So we have some teams who are probably performing a little bit better than expected. Dig is tied for 3rd with TSM right now. Team Liquid and Evil Geniuses are both 500 and tied for 5th and 6th. And FlyQuest is sitting at 2 and 4. What are you expecting from these last few weeks?
I think the last few weeks we'll definitely see. I can see. Let's see. Let me look at the schedule. TSM has a pretty rough week this week, and next week, kind of. It looks like. I could see TSM dropping some games. I think the top 4 is maybe going to shape out to probably be like C9, 100 Thieves. If Dignitas can stay where they're at, I think they can realistically remain in the top 4. And then I think the last top 4 spot's probably going to be between Evil Geniuses and Team Liquid. And whoever gets shoved out of that gets moved to the bottom of the bracket in the losers bracket. Whoever gets shoved out of the top 4 there is probably just going to have their time beating whoever in the lower bracket, because I don't think Immortals, FlyQuest, CLG, or the Golden Gardens are going to be able to make any kind of realistic run.
Yeah, agreed. I think the big thing is to avoid Team Liquid as long as possible, and ideally if they came in as the 5th or 6th seed, that'd be perfect, but I don't see it happening. I think the main thing is to try and avoid them into the first round of games. So 1v4, 2v3.
Yeah, I agree. I think also maybe try to avoid Evil Geniuses. They just seem to be our kryptonite and play counter to what we want to play. I think if it was a best of 3 or a best of 5, we could maybe beat them. But with our best of 1 luck with Evil Geniuses, we have not been able to beat them yet. And I think that it would be nice to maybe avoid them too, just so we don't have to worry about dropping anything unnecessarily.
Yeah, so that's still 4 weeks out, so that'll keep shaping up. As we have time in the future, we'll continue to talk about it. But I think our goal still remains the same, and that is to go to MSI this year.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal that we should be shooting for, and I think that it's definitely a realistic one that can happen. Especially if the team continues to improve with each game, like it seems that they're doing.
Mhm. So, I think that's about it for this week then.
Yep. Thanks everyone for listening. Be sure to follow us at C9 Bodied, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. See you next time, guys. Bye.